Guys, so today I want to talk about the glue-on boots, the scoot boot skins, and also their regular scoot boots and troubleshooting and difficulties and stuff like that. The first thing we have to do is define what type of riding that you do, okay? Let's say that easy riding is going to be everything up to a canter. And then medium riding is going to be everything up to a hand gallop in an arena or flat ground, and gaited horses at their slower gaits. Even then, you got to define even further, because with the gaited horses, the different breeds will move different. There's different types of gaits. There's different ways that they flick their hooves, and they do funky things with their movements and stuff, and different movements and all that. So we'll say the slower speeds of the gaited is under medium. And then hard riding is, let's say, gaited horse at fast speeds, doing a harder, funkier pace, and also galloping out with some rocks, up and down hills, rocky, galloping on rocks, down a hill, down a mountain, down a hill, or up a mountain, up a hill, banking off the sides and stuff like that. That's all hard riding. Oh, plus water really isn't a big deal with the scoots at all, but mud, let's call mud in there, throw mud in there. And then extreme riding. I don't know a lot of people that have horses that do this. I'm going to say that Lasser and I are a little bit unique in this area, and that's because Lasser's 1,300 pounds. We are over 1,500 pounds when I'm riding him with all his tack. Okay, so 1,500 pounds of pressure and force on the boot. And also, he only hits this part of riding when he is at a race. Race brain kicks in, he turns into the Hulk, and he's got so much muscle, he's so fit, and he's so powerful, and he's so much weight, and he's crazy. So he gets his hind end under him, and his front end, instead of just going along like a normal horse would do, and no, he's like pouncing like a cat, or not even cat, like a, I don't know, tiger or something. He's like pouncing and grabbing and ripping things up and just doing that, and really digging with his front end, and also pushing off hard with his hind. Like I said, he only does this at a race, which makes it hard, because I'll put him through all the tests. We'll go and we'll gallop as fast as he can go and everything. We'll do everything, all of our tests. I call all of that still hard riding. We're not really hitting into the extreme. The extreme part is that it only happens in a race, when he clicks into this other crazy part of him, and he puts that extra in. I've looked at other horses at races, and they don't even do that. They still got their brain, and they're still moving normally in a race. But Lasser clicks into this, and so that is our difficulty, is what can stay on in the extreme part. So when I say something failed, I'll say it failed at the extreme. The glue-on and this can both handle to up to hard riding. The extreme riding, they're not holding on very well, but I think I can improve it. This one, I've already improved the how much it can take with the padded collar mod, and that improved the performance, and it made it so that it can take a little bit of the extreme stuff as well. These ones, in order to improve the performance of these to take on the extreme riding, I need to get better at gluing, and I'm gonna explain to you the whole process behind it. At first I thought, oh, glue on is easy. You just slap some glue, put it on, and then it's perfect. In an ideal world, I should be able to glue these onto him right before the race, and then he'll run through the whole thing for the whole weekend and all that, and then we come home and we take it off, and I don't have to worry about his hooves at all the entire time. That is the ideal. But in order to get that ideal, I have to go through a huge learning curve, and probably lots of money. So this is not user friendly. In order for this, or I can say, How well this works is dependent on who the skill of the person putting them on, the skill and the tools that they have, and all that stuff. And I'll go into that later. Versus their regular strap-ons that are very user friendly, and really the only thing I needed to do to make it, you know, good for a little bit of the extreme riding was to put on the padded collar mod, and that's really easy to do as well. But very little learning curve or anything like that. So these are great, and in fact this weekend these saved our butts because the glue-on failed. When I say the glue-on failed, you gotta take in, that's really me saying my technique of putting on the glue-on failed. But I didn't do it in ideal situations because I was in my testing phase. This is all my testing phase. I actually anticipated that they were going to fail because I did everything wrong. But the reason why I did it wrong is because I go through this thing where I have to push things to make them fail and see if they fail, because it's all testing. I'm experimenting, I'm learning, I'm seeing where the boundaries are, I'm seeing, you know, where I can stretch things or whatever, and where I cannot, and where, you know, how strict are these rules and stuff. When I learn something, I learn it completely, and I have to push them to failure. So we're at that stage because I already know what it takes to get them to be perfect. So that is, I didn't need to test that. But in our future races, I think we've already tested everything I need about failure. So now, you know, we can just do, we can just go for success in the future. But a lot of people go, well, with all of this complication with hoof boots, you know, why don't you just stick with shoes? Well, actually, it was a failure of shoes that led us on this whole journey. Lasser had shoes on until he was 13 years old. You know, his whole entire life, his whole career was in shoes. It was a failure in the shoes that led us down this path. So I'll tell you what happened with shoes. With shoes, going on rocky terrain in a race situation, extreme riding, remember, then he still needed sole protection from the rocks, the extreme amount of rocks, right? And so he would have his shoes, he'd be shod, and then I put on this easy boot, a backcountry trail or the easy boot ones, and this would be on over the shoes, okay? And so he had double protection, and I thought, all right, you know, we're set, we got double protection. Well, in the race, he does his extreme stuff, and all of the boots came flying off. He lost all those, and all of the shoes he tore them right off. But the thing is, when he tore off the shoes, that also tore off all the hoof wall, and so his hooves were absolutely demolished, and I can't have that. If these come off, they just come off and we no longer have protection, but his hoof is not hurt from it. If this comes off, once again, his hoof isn't hurt from it. And so far, my point is, and the farrier that put the shoes on for that race, he is like an excellent farrier. He's excellent. He shoes horses for Tevis and all that endurance. He knows he knows his job. He did it right. It was not a fault of the shoes. I'm telling you, it's something crazy with Lasser during a race, all right? Okay, so what's better, a glue-on or a strap-on? Originally, I thought the glue-on would be best, but surprisingly, the strap-on is excellent. Well, one, because how easy it is to use, how user-friendly, and it doesn't take, you know, really any extra money to make it work great for you. The glue-on is not easy. It's not cheap because of all of the equipment you have to buy with it, and there's a huge learning curve, huge. Like I said, whether or not they stay on, more has to do with the skill level of the person putting it on than, you know, this. The other thing is, when this thing takes a hit or something happens, the seal breaks, okay? It's almost always going to break from the widest part of the hoof back. That the heel part is going to break off first, and then with every hit, it's going to keep working its way open. Now, once the seal of the glue separates from the hoof, it's no longer sticky. So, you know, there's really nothing holding it on except the rest of the glue. But once one end is compromised, you know, it'll keep working until the rest comes off. That's why in order to remove the shoes, you're supposed to take a flathead screwdriver, you work it off from the back, you work it all the way to the front, and then it just slips right off. With the regular shoes, every time it takes a hit and stuff, unless if the straps break, it goes wonky, or, you know, gets stretched funny, or twists a little funny, it resets itself and it's back to zero and it's ready to take the next hit. So, you know, you keep resetting to zero, it takes a hit, resets, takes a hit, resets, and then you end up with the boot staying on. Versus this, where it takes a hit, so you start off at 100% adhesion. You know, by the end of let's say the first 5 miles, you know, maybe it's dropped down to 90% adhesion. You know, you keep going. If your horse is, and it's, you know, taking too many hits, keeps dropping, and it only goes down. It can't reset itself. Okay, so that was the thing that I learned with this. So, in order to have this stay on, you got to be perfect with the whole gluing thing. So the whole thing about it's not user friendly. Okay, why isn't it user friendly? Well, it costs a lot of money. You need a lot of stuff with it. Some of it is not a big deal, but okay, disposable gloves. Okay, not a big deal. Extra mixing tips. I'd say 5. 1 for each hoof, and then 1 for backfilling and creating a seal for everything. So let's say 5 for doing 4 hoofs. 5 tips, and then if you mess up, you know, there's another tip. Okay, so you gotta keep tips on hand. Then the dispenser. This is one of the biggest expenses. The dispensing gun. This one is like $60 new. There's one that's like $80, and then there's one that's $250. Now, originally I was like, why would anyone need a $250 dispensing gun? Now I know why. When I'm doing this, because it has a 30-second set time, 4 to 6 minute full cure time, you have to work fast, and you're pumping. I'm pumping, I'm holding this, I'm pumping, I'm turning this, you know, I'm trying to smear it and everything, and then I got to set it down. So with the automatic one, it's a lithium battery powered automatic gun with a variable speed. So you just hold down the trigger, it does a nice even beat all the way around, and then you're done. So it may seem like a luxury, but actually no, it's probably more of a necessity. You know, especially if you're finding out that you're having so much failures because you're not able to get a good steady stream fast enough out onto the boot and onto the hoof. So that's a lot of money right there. Then a heat gun. You got a heat gun. You got to dry the hoof. You got to dry the boots and stuff like that. So the heat gun is good. Cloth tape, hoof brush. The rasp, you want to use the end of the rasp, not the flat end, but the actual edge, and make grooves all down the whole length of the hoof wall to give it grooves, and so the glue has something to grip onto. If you want to use Sikaflex, you're going to need to buy Sikaflex and a dispensing gun that works with the Sikaflex. Nippers are more optional. The only thing is that they're great at making a nice, clean, straight cut. And you have to have that when you're doing the here to cut off the tip, because straight and clean and everything, so that both sides are able to come out at the same speed and everything and mix properly in here. Maybe a mallet, definitely a Dremel. After you take off the glue on boot, you got to Dremel off all of the old glue in order to reset it again. If it takes you half an hour to do 1 boot and you got 4 boots, that's 2 hours. And you definitely need a Dremel for that. Screwdriver, and I think that's about it. So there's a lot of time invested, time to clean up the boots, time to prep the hoof, and all of the equipment that you need to have as well in order to make it good. Also, you need to have the right space. You need a space that can be totally clean. Basically, when you're prepping the hoof, you have to clean it all off. Okay, everything needs to be clean. So wash it. Then you have to have it dry, not just dry to the touch and dry to your eyes and all that, but this type of dry. Okay, dry it all up. And okay, right now I'm telling you what is ideal. And some of it you don't have to go to that extreme, but if you don't, it's going to you're compromising how much adhesion you have. Okay, your level of adhesion. Okay, so super dry with the heat gun. Then you're going to wipe it down with alcohol in order to remove any oils and stuff. You can't have any oils. You have to have your disposable gloves because you can't have any of the oils on your hands transferring over to that. So you're going to wipe it down with alcohol. You have your disposable gloves. It is all nice and clean, no debris and everything. And all of this is through the horse moving around or whatever. So your whole workspace has to be clean. Then that here needs to be in a controlled temperature. First off, it needs to be in a controlled temperature when you're storing it. Because if it's too hot, if it's always stored in a hot place, you're going to shorten its shelf life. And also you could have failures with the seal breaking in the back, and then the whole product is just spilling out everywhere and stuff like that. If it's too cold, then there's problems. Also, the time, the 30-second set time, 46-minute full cure time, that is completely dependent on temperature and a little bit dependent on humidity as well. So when I'm watching the Easy Care's video on how to put on their glue-on boots with adhere, the guy, he has 90 seconds, but I see that he's wearing a jacket. And then they're inside some kind of controlled environment. They're indoors on some kind of concrete floors or something, and I can hear maybe a fan or air conditioner going on in the back or something like that. And my point is, it's controlled and it's obviously a cooler place. I forgot to look up where they are, in the country or the world and stuff. You'll see people in Australia where it's hotter talk about, or Arizona, they'll talk about how this works, and they have to deal with high heat. So they have a cooler filled with ice, and they stick it in there to keep it cool. Then you have people, on the East Coast where it's really rainy and there's a lot of humidity, and them talking about the product and how it takes longer to set up, and they can take their time because it's not, and stuff, and also the temperature and all that, how fast it sets and everything, all that can also play a role in how much product you need to use. Now, the thing is, you also have to have a good fit. So when you're asking, do the glue-ons work? Short answer, yes, they're great. It's got nice high sides, and so if you have even coverage of glue, proper coverage of glue all around, you have maximum adhesion. Lots of glue, lots of adhesion. The Easy Care ones are a little bit shorter, I believe, on the sides and stuff. The shorter walls, so maybe not as much adhesion. Also, the Easy Care ones are still the harder plastic, not the soft, flexible sole stuff. So but they're pretty, so you see. Also, these ones, they have the holes here on the sides and the holes here up the front. And basically, what happens is when you have the glue, you put on a strip of tape to cover that, but the glue will ooze out of here. And when it oozes out and dries, then it creates a little hook for the glue to also hold on to the boot. So that plus the one on the front. So you have that with the scoots. So temperature, humidity, how clean is the hoof? How well are you able to prep it? How good is your technique in putting these grooves on the hoof wall so that the glue has something to hold on to the hoof? One tip is that if you have a failure of the glue and then you look at the glue, if the glue is all on the boot, then it probably had great adhesion to the boot, but not so much. There's no glue on the hoof, then probably you need more prep on the hoof. because it didn't grip onto the hoof. It stayed gripped onto the boot, something like that. So that's a good tip too when you're trying to troubleshoot what's going on. Also, if they fail, then you can look on the inside and see, did I have proper coverage, proper even coverage all the way around, or did I have air bubbles and gaps where the glue didn't go? The challenge with working with this is really the temperature and stuff like that. You have to find the right temperature. If it's too hot, then it's going to set up super fast, even faster than 30 seconds. Okay, it's going to set faster than 30 seconds. So you only have a few seconds. So what happens is you're gluing on this side, and you're taking your time, and and it's really hot outside. It's really dry outside. Then you come on this side, and then you start doing this. Then what happens is this side is already starting to set up. So by the time you put it on the hoof, one side is already kind of hard, and then you're mushing it on and making it work, or using your rubber mallet and hitting it on to make it work. And then the other side is nice and soft and gooey still and sets. Well, that is important to note, because for maximum adhesion, the critical period of the glue is as it's setting up and drying till it's dry. In that time, you cannot move, because if you notice, when a glob of glue dries, the outside dries first and then the inside dries, right? Well, if you don't move, then molecularly all of the ties are going to be nice and straight and strong. Every time you move the two edges, now you've cracked these little things, all these little bonds that they were trying to set up and bond straight, they're going to be all cracked and stuff. And so when you have maximum bond between the two, then that's 100% adhesion. Any little movement or shifting and stuff like that, you break it down until you really only have like 20% adhesion of that glue. So if one side has already started to set up, that means that is your weak side. So then what happens is, you have a weak side. When you go out and run, that's going to weaken, tear and break away, and now your boot is actually going to move on the hoof, and that movement is going to start to work away on the side with a good adhesion. Now, if it's too slow to set up, so the product is too cold, then same thing. It's taking too long to set up, which increases the chance that the horse is going to move, and then it's going to shift, and then you're like, oh, it's okay, I'll just shift it back. Well, that's fine, but you've broken the good bond. So that's why that critical period, if you're able to keep everything perfect and still and let it set up, then it'd be great. Now, knowing that, now you see the importance of having something right in the middle. You really want something that has enough time for you to lay it all out, put it on, and then it starts to set. So I'm thinking maybe like a minute or a minute and a half of set time, and then like 5 minutes full cure time, right, would be ideal. You can achieve that with playing around with the VetTech Adhere product, which is readily available here in the US. And then there's another product called Equibond, and they're more popular in Canada and Australia, and I think it's kind of hard for me to get here. Plus with Equibond, you have to have its own dispensing gun. I think it's 480 mLs, so it's a larger tube. But that one has a set time of, I think, a minute to 90 seconds, and then a cure time. So it's fast set, but it gives you a little more time than the Adhere and stuff like that. So that's another product that you can experiment with. I don't really have the means to do that right now. Okay, so in conclusion, I love the Scoot boots. We've been using them for a long time now. We have over 900 miles on them. I've honestly I've stopped keeping track after 900 because I'm like, we got this. Love their regular ones. They do have a slim. That's I'm gonna probably be testing those. And the slims are basically ones that fit the oval hoof better than the round. And I really need that, especially in Lasserre's hind. His hinds are ovals; they're not rounds. And I've been making them work with these, but it's not ideal. Now for the skins, they only come in the round. And I spoke with Dave at Scoot Boot and asked him if they would please make the skins slims, so oval skins, and he said he would do it. So, looking forward to when they get that out. But that's important because the fit of the boot is very important, even though it's a glue-on, because you don't want too much product on there either. And that's the other thing. How much thickness? 1/8 of an inch or something like that is a proper thickness. If it's too thick, one, it's going to take too long to set up. If it takes too long to set up, once again, you could have a shift. But the other thing is, the VetTech Adhere does heat up as it sets. So if it's too thick, it's going to heat up a lot. And so what I'm saying is, if you have an oval hoof and you're thinking, I'm just gonna fill and put a big glob of glue, that's gonna get super duper hot, and it's not recommended or ideal. So really, you want a good fit already, and you really just want 1/8 of an inch or around there, not too thin, not too thick and globbery, but a nice even 1/8 of an inch all the way around, and that's ideal. So the slim skins would be awesome, and that would eliminate failures as well. And then the other thing too is, when you're putting these on, you got to think, if the hoof is already tight in the boot and you just slip it right on, is the hoof going to scrape all the product that you so nicely evened out from the top to the bottom and then smear onto the sole? Because you don't want any of the glue on the sole. This glue is going to dry hard as a rock, and that's going to create issues if it's on the sole. So when you're putting it on, you really want to open this up, and of course you've got glue all in there, right? So you want to open this up, and you want to lay it down on one side of the hoof and lay it down on the other side of the hoof, and then make it squish. But yeah, you've got to be careful on when it's squishing. How does it squish? You don't want it squishing down and pushing product down into the sole, where it can become a rock on the sole in the boot, right? So all of these become things where it makes it a little more complicated, makes it so that your technique and your skill and practice go into play. Another really important thing to realize is, we look at a standing hoof and we think that it is static. It doesn't move. But it does. It moves a lot. And especially, with the heavier horses, faster paces, harder ground and stuff, you'll see that the hoof, the whole back side of the heel, from the quarters to the heels, it spreads, and it comes retracts again, spreads, contracts from the bottom and the sides coming out as well. And there's probably more flexion in the hoof than we know that happens. And farriers know this too. Steel shoes. Look at your steel shoes. Look at where the nail holes are. It's from the front. I hope you guys can see that. The holes are from the front, and they're only on the top front to the widest part of the hoof. And the reason why that is there are no nails on the back part of the shoe, because that part needs to be open to allow the hoof to spread and contract and to bend and to flex and all that. So I'm not saying something brand new out there. Shoes are like that. Farriers know that. The hoof moves. And that is why it's, you know, that's why it also tears, the glue will tear off from this portion back. Also look at quarter cracks. Why are we getting quarter cracks? Obviously when they're a little bit too long, then they get quarter cracks and stuff like that, but also that quarter area back is where the hoof is flexing and moving. So when you're doing a trim, you got to really make sure that the quarters are going to be flexible enough to be able to accommodate that, or else you get a crack, the quarter crack in your hoof. So yeah, understanding the mechanics of how the hoof is moving and stuff like that. I mean, all the hoof boot companies are constantly reinventing and bettering their product. And I don't know if anyone can say that they have a product that's 100% and cheap and easy and user friendly and the ultimate perfect product. That I don't think that exists just yet. But we work with what we got. So anyways, I know I've been talking a lot. Hope that helps. I'm just doing a big data dump right now. Send me a message. Let me know if you have any questions and all that, and I'd definitely be happy to help you, or just contact some, actual professional that may know. All right, take care. Bye, guys.